Welcome to Connect to Joy. Your host, Carol DeChaine, is an intuitive spiritual guide for practical matters and Marconic multidimensional energy practitioner. Her quest is to help you realize new possibilities, discover and release what holds you back, and enable you to manifest an inspired life filled with joy. Join us on this journey of transformation. Now, here's your host, Carol DeChaine.
Welcome, beautiful spirits. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm Carol DeChaine, and my passion in life is to help you find your joy, to release what holds you back, and assist you to quantum leap your journey of self-discovery. I'm an intuitive, certified in life and business coaching, and a Marconic multidimensional energy practitioner and teacher. So if you're ready to start creating that life you've only dreamed of, that you deserve, let's have some fun. And let's get started right now. Today, this episode is going to all be about saying yes. And I had three kind of pushes to do this one. Not exactly reasons, but it's a song, a book, and a personal story. The song is Liza Minnelli's song from way back when, and it's actually called Say Yes. The book is The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, and the personal story I'll tell you about in a bit. They kept coming to mind at one point, and I thought, I need to do an episode about this. I need to do a whole show. And we're going to talk about how the word yes can change your life, how no can be equally important if you never say no, how to say yes even when something's holding you back, whether it's fear of the future or whatever it may be, how to say yes even though. And I'm going to give you 10 ways that you can say yes to yourself, kind of in detail, different ideas or different areas of your life and what it might look like if you actually said yes. I'm going to start with my personal story. And my personal story has to do with the fact that, most of my life, I wasn't someone who volunteered for anything. The very thought of it made me uncomfortable, and even if it could lead to something that might be really nice or pretty cool, I didn't really take many chances that weren't calculated first. Even if the calculation was a split-second decision kind of calculation, it was am I going to get embarrassed over this? Do I know the answer already? Like in school, should I raise my hand? Yeah, I know the answer. I'll raise my hand. Or is it, no, I'm not sure. Well, leave the hand down, or I don't know at all. If you're one of those people, you keep your eyes lowered so the person never calls on you. The teacher knows you don't know at that point. But I didn't want to volunteer either when I was at a live show. I was a long time ago, and they asked for volunteers. I didn't know what was going to happen, and I didn't want to be embarrassed or embarrass myself. So I didn't raise my hand. And my friend, who was waving wildly, saying, yes, pick me, turned to me later and looked at me and she said, why don't you ever volunteer for anything? And obviously that kind of is still in my mind because I'm still thinking about that. And yes, I've changed a lot. I do volunteer sometimes for too much. I still do that bit of calculation because my mind is just there. I don't do it without fear sometimes, but I am more likely to volunteer, like 1,000% more likely than I used to be. So do you have your own story about a time when you wanted to say yes to something, but you either were too afraid of what it might bring, or just the unknown was enough to make you go, I don't know. Or maybe it looked like too much work to say yes, and that was the reason why you said no. But did you actually ever want to say yes? And you went, dang, wish I had. Yes is just very powerful. It can help you try new things, to expand your mind, to even be aware of new possibilities you hadn't thought about before, and to help you do things that you never maybe would have done before. If you say yes, you can change your self-confidence level. It can grow. It can be more. And you might think, yeah, but if I blow it, it could go down. And that's true too. But that's the power of yes, because you can say yes to failure too. because you just learned from failure. It doesn't have to be horrendous and awful. Because yes can change your reality. And yes, let's be honest, it makes life more of an adventure because no can slam the door. And that kind of reminds me of improv. Because if you've ever watched Whose Line Is It Anyway or taken part in an improv class or being called up on stage, heaven forbid for me, I hated this part of acting. This was something my brain would freeze and I could not do ever. Because the whole point of improv is to say yes to the other actors, yes to the storyline, yes to move it along, because you never say no in an improv situation, because the story just stops. Everybody looks at you that's acting with you and goes, now what do we do? So if somebody sets a scene and says something, oh, well, you really like the bakery, blah, 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 and you say, we're not at a bakery. Unless you have a follow-up to make sense of that, like, what have you been drinking? We're actually here. And then that's okay, because you gave them a place to go. But if you just said, no, we're not, everything stops. There's nowhere to go from there. And that's just like life. If you say no, your story can stop moving forward. You might get stuck. You might be doing the same old, all the time. Now, in general, I'm talking about no keeps you stuck. And yes, opens up to new possibilities and horizons. But it's not the kind of yes where you feel like a doormat because you always say yes, even when you don't want to. That's a different kind of thing. And I'm going to be talking about that a little later. But I want to get into the second reason that I decided to do this show, or the second thing that prompted me to do it, was the song Say Yes by Liza Minnelli. It was on her vinyl album back in the day, Liza with a Z. She has a number of songs on that I've brought through my whole life. It's really fascinating. She had some great songs. The song, well, it goes like this. Life keeps happening every day. Say yes when opportunity comes your way. Don't stop wondering what to say. You never win if you never play. Say yes. And it goes on to say, don't say why not. What lies beyond what is not. So don't worry about it. That's not the line in there, but if it's not there yet, don't worry about it. So what? Say yes. And another part of it says nothing's gained if nothing's tried. And that song has literally stuck in my head on and off through my entire life. Because if you don't say yes, at least once in a while, like I said in a moment ago, you get stuck. The same job, the same relationship, which the same relationship could be great. But if it doesn't grow, if you don't say yes to that relationship, you may feel like you're just stuck in the same old thing. Same old, same old. The third reason I wanted to talk about saying yes is one of the best books I've ever written. That's wishful thinking. That I've ever read. The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. Obviously, I highly recommend it if it's one of my top 5 books. It's incredibly inspiring and really makes you think. I heard it when I was commuting. It's on the audiobook where actually Shonda Rhimes reads it herself. And because it's personal to her, she's just really, really good at reading it. So you really feel like part of her story. Now, you may or may not know who Shonda Rhimes is, but she is a great storyteller. And she's written numerous hit TV shows. You may have heard of them. One of them is Grey's Anatomy. Another one is How to Get Away with Murder, which is still on. I think both of those are still on. And I think she's had 4 of them that are really well known that are out there. And obviously, with writing that well, she's probably going to have a bestseller when she writes. I believe it was a bestseller. If not, it should have been. Because this book is all about her journey that started when she had overheard her sister. Her sister didn't say it directly to her, let's put it that way. She overheard it as she was walking away. And her sister said, "You never say yes to anything." Kind of reminds me of what I had to say, what I heard from my friend about you never volunteer for anything, that's why I think it hit me so hard. It was a reminder of that line that my friend had told me. Because this is a book about how Shonda Rhimes overcame her fears, as she says, without dying, passing out, or throwing up. Well, much. This is something about reevaluating your life so she could find more joy, to say yes more often to possibilities and opportunities. And it definitely did remind me of my own story and made me feel like I wanted to reevaluate and look at where I was at. And to be honest, the chapter headings alone in her book make it worth buying. They're yes to doing, yes to play, yes to people, yes to difficult conversations, yes to dancing it out. And no, I don't get any kickback from telling you about her book. But it's one that might be able to make a difference to you. It is absolutely amazing. Now, I said earlier that yes versus no. And I'll say more about this in the next section here. But if you always say yes to things that you don't want, this information is still for you. Because you have to ask yourself, do you feel put upon or taken for granted when you say yes? Do you think you'll feel unloved if you say no to something? Things like carpool, cooking, cleaning, doing other people's chores when they don't do them, maybe taking on other people's work at work when they don't do them. Then you need to learn to say no, because the power of no is huge as well. But what you're saying is the power of yes to things you want in your life. Things so you're not stuck. You don't want to say no all the time or yes all the time, but you want to say yes to you all the time and exactly what you want in your life. Was there ever a time you wanted to say yes, but the opportunity just totally freaked you out, so you didn't do it? If so, look at that opportunity right now. What was it that came up for you that you said no to? Was it maybe asking someone on a date, or even taking the step to say yes to someone you really thought you wanted to go out with? Or perhaps it was to a job opportunity. What was it that maybe that happened? What opportunity? What fear held you back? If you wanted to do it, but fear held you back, it's different from not wanting to take the time to do it, which might ultimately, if you keep looking underneath it, have a fear attached, but that's up to you to figure out. Because there are such things as fear of failure, that you wanted to say yes, but you're afraid you wouldn't make it. Maybe people would laugh at you. Maybe you were afraid of the success. Maybe people would distance themselves from you if you succeeded in some way. Maybe you were afraid of embarrassment, of looking like a fool like I was. Or maybe you were just afraid of being judged by people. Even though you didn't feel embarrassed, you didn't like the thought that if you did something and you said yes to something, you would feel that you would be judged. Or maybe you just felt that you weren't the right person for the job or for the opportunity, or you didn't have the knowledge that you thought you needed. So the question is, how did you talk yourself out of saying yes? I want you to think about that for a second. How did you talk yourself out of saying yes? Because honestly, that's the whole reason why we don't move forward. If you say no to something you want, it's because you're totally out of your comfort zone. And it's called a comfort zone for a reason. You're trying to protect yourself from what might happen. Now, is it a fear-based no? Is it a logical-based no? Or an emotional decision? How do you normally respond to things? It really doesn't matter which one it is. As long as you know yourself well enough, you'll know when you start falling back. You're going, well, logically, I really don't think I want to. Because, and you'll have all kinds of reasons why. But what's the real reason? Is there something underneath? Why did you decide to say no? And maybe it's a perfectly good no. Maybe it's not something you wanted to say yes to. But that's not what this show is about. The show is about when you do want to say yes. So what steps can you take to say yes when you really want to? So first, what is your head saying to yourself? logically. When you say, well, if I wanted to say yes, what's the next step? What would I do? And then look at what your heart is saying. Is your heart saying emotionally that you want to go for it, but your head's going, no, not so sure? Because your heart is your emotion. What does it feel like when you think that you want to say yes, but you're not really thinking you want to go there for some reason? Or maybe your intuition and your gut is saying, go, you got to do this. But your heart and your mind is going, not so sure. Are they at odds? Because if they're all on board, you're going to be doing it. The yes is going to be easy. It's going to happen. So if you're a logical sort and you do a pros and cons list because you really want to do it, look at what's on your list because it will help your mind adjust to the yes that you really want to say. You might find you have 10 things that are no or cons on the list and only one thing that's a plus. But that one thing might be all it takes for you to say yes. So it may help you to see exactly why you're stuck in between your head, your heart, and your gut. I'll say gut at this point instead of intuition. But if you could step back and look from a third-party perspective, what do you truly need to be able to say yes to something you want? Perhaps you need more calmness so that you can meditate and pray. Take some deep breaths while you're doing it. Maybe yoga will help. Something that will center you. They call you centering for some reason. It's kind of like your entire being comes together into one agreement. And that's what you want to do when you are trying to make a big decision or even a small decision that might impact your life. Because fear of the unknown and not knowing what's going to happen is what's holding you back, really. And if you feel like what you need to say yes is more maybe education, maybe you need to go back to school or get a degree or do something because this opportunity is so big that you can talk them into letting you go back to school. Maybe they'll pay for it while you have a specific job. Or maybe you need more information and all you need to do is Google to find out more about what you're saying yes to. Because sometimes we say yes and it's different than what we thought, right? We need more information. We need to ask more questions before we say yes sometimes. And sometimes you just need more. You need to ask for help. And you need to allow yourself to do that. Because asking for help can be really tough for some people. Because you need to feel like you can do it. You have the power. You're smart. You can do it yourself. But sometimes you need to ask someone who's already been there. Maybe a mentor would be good to ask. Maybe that would make you feel okay because you know they've been there, done that. And because they've been there and done that, they'll have answers for you that maybe other people wouldn't. Or maybe you need someone like a friend who has an opinion so that, well, let's put it this way. I had a friend who always asked me for advice. From the time we first met, for the first half of our friendship, for like at least 10 to 15 years, she never took my advice. Because sometimes I found out later when I asked her, how come you never take my advice? I mean, why do you even ask? She said, no, you don't get it. It's really helpful because when you tell me forcefully, this is what I think, and I know exactly my reaction, it was never what you said, but it would clarify for me why I needed to do something. Yes or no, how to make a decision because of the way you reacted. Her gut reaction kind of showed her that whatever I said wasn't for her. And so even if you ask a friend who has a response totally different from you, it could still be really, really helpful. As long as your friend, like mine, like I did, doesn't take umbrage to the fact that, wait, you didn't take my advice. No, but thank you. It clarified for me how I felt. And then it's like, oh, well, okay then. So they won't mind because that's exactly what I had needed to hear. And later, I got to the point where I gave her 3 different reactions. And you might even want to ask your friend for that. The 3-dimensional world, what's your reaction to this? How would you respond? Why do you think I'm facing this problem and I can't say yes? I would give her a reality-based response of why. Then I would give her my advice as though if it was just my emotional response. And then I gave her a spiritual lesson sort of response of maybe this is what you're supposed to learn from this. She really seemed to like that. So that's not too many people that'll do that. Maybe it's one of the reasons I became a life coach, because I actually could see it from a third party, even when I wanted to react emotionally and answer her that way. So you may need someone more objective. Like I said, a life coach. It's someone that will help you figure it out for yourself. A therapist will. Ministers will ask you questions and see how you're feeling. Whatever it is and however you need to find out if you need more help, to say yes to something you really want, by all means, take that step. Figure it out. If there are more specific steps you need to feel comfortable, are there more before making the decision? And then what does saying yes entail after you actually say yes? Those are two things that people don't think of. So what specific steps you need to feel comfortable making the decision, and what saying yes might entail afterwards. Now, this is really, really important. Don't open yourself up to attract just any old thing. When you say yes, don't say yes to just anything. Ask the universe, ask your higher self, whatever you want to do, ask for things that only or attract your highest good. Maybe you meditate before you say, okay, I'm opening myself up to yes. I want things to come to me I can say yes for. And then make sure it feels right when you say yes. That you know this is something that feels right. Whether or not the rest of you is on board, you know you're supposed to say yes. That's the important part. Because you want it to be in a similar or a right vibration for you so that it really connects to your spirit. It connects to your emotional center. And you know, yes, even if I'm fearful, this is what I need. I'm going to be getting into next the 10 ways to say yes to yourself. You might want to try each one for a week or a month instead of the year that Shonda Rhimes' book talks about. So maybe it won't seem quite so overwhelming. Some of these are in her book and some of these are not. Some of these are ones I either came up with or felt right to put out there. I wanted to give you these ideas because you're going to find that you can pick the one you want to start with. You might want to pick an easy one or maybe one of the harder ones to say yes to, wherever your commitment level is and wherever you feel right doing it, because I want to make sure that you're in your space, whatever feels best for you. I don't want you to get caught up with, this is right because Carol said it's right. I want you to get caught up with, okay, this feels for me. This I know is right for me. The first one is saying yes to your home. Redecorate if you want. You can do it a little or a lot. If you don't have much money, you can just move the furniture around. Maybe you can change out pictures because it's amazing. I just did that the other day. And if you move 2 pictures and you swap them out, all of a sudden you see those pictures again. If you're in the same spot day after day, it's rare that you'll notice them after a while. But if you adjust, move one piece of furniture to another one, you move a picture to another picture spot, it shifts the whole feeling of the house for some reason. Maybe you can get a few new pieces or declutter one drawer at a time, a shelf or a closet, maybe part of a closet because sometimes those are big. I have to say that about a month ago, I emptied out every single thing in my pantry. I was shocked that I had so many of the same items because I liked them so much. I had like 20 cans of artichokes from Trader Joe's and about 15 of something else. And I was looking around going, okay, what are the expiration dates on these? And should I throw these out? And let's put these in order so I can use them and don't buy any more for a while. So you don't know what you have until you actually go in there. You may never have used something for years that you pull out and go, I haven't even noticed this thing was here. Didn't miss it. Time to toss it. Anything that makes your home feel more home-like, more peaceful, or healthier and higher vibration for you, that's something you can say yes to in your home. Make it more home-like for you, whatever that means. The second thing you can say, and this one is from Shonda Rhimes' book, say yes to compliments. Are you someone who ignores or maybe deflects a compliment? Maybe somebody says, oh, you're so pretty today, or what a great outfit. You say, oh, no, it's nothing. Oh, no, not this thing. This is old. Or maybe you say, oh, no, it's just in the line of work. So many people we consider heroes, they say, oh, no, anybody would have done it. No, not necessarily. But maybe somebody says yes to this great idea that you had, or says how intelligent or attractive you are. Why do you feel uncomfortable? Why can't you just say yes and say, maybe even a little humble, say, well, thank you. That's so sweet of you to say. Even if you immediately want to say, no, 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 it's nothing. You deserve to hear these things about yourself. So allow yourself to feel like you deserve them. This one can be fun, a little uncomfortable, but if you don't usually say yes to compliments, just say thank you. And then if you want to say something else, but at least say thank you to them. Acknowledge that they said something nice. Because sometimes it takes a lot of effort to say a compliment to somebody, and you don't want them to never say you again, do you? You want to acknowledge them. The third thing is saying yes to dating. If you're single and you sit at home, or maybe you dabble in online dating, you have to do something if you want to be with somebody. You need to get out there, whether it's Zoom call during the shutdown, if this is when you're listening to this, or it's a time where you can meet up, go for a walk, have food, whatever you want to do. And if you're married, you might appreciate each other more like you did maybe at the beginning of your relationship if you have that date night. If you make sure that you really take the time to appreciate that other person. The fourth thing you could say yes to is your body. Now, if you look in the mirror, don't just focus on what needs to be fixed or what you don't like about yourself. I need to lose 10 pounds. My nose is crooked. My right eye is lower than my left eye. And look, if you're a woman, well, it could be a man. My blush is totally red. It looks horrible on, or my eyeliner is just too thick today. Whatever it is, my hair is a bad hair day. Stop. Just stop. You can do that too, but find a reason to focus on the positive, at least sometimes. Find something small if you have to. And then after you start doing that, when you look in the mirror, decide that you can do something for yourself. Maybe it's movement for your body that needs it. I didn't say exercise, you notice, because that's not one of my favorite words in the world. But movement is okay. Dancing is good. Whatever talks to you. Maybe you can get more sleep or eat whatever you consider better. It may just be eating a little less of something or a little more of something else. Having more water that's healthier. Maybe you need to refresh your wardrobe, revamp it a little bit, or mix it up and try a couple of pieces together that you normally don't wear. And ladies, maybe you want to try different makeup. Whatever it is that you want to say yes to about your body, it can be a ton of different kinds of things. But take that week or that month and say yes. You'll start feeling better about yourself. The fifth thing is saying yes to taking a break. Maybe you want to take it away from work or away from your spouse or your child or pushy relatives, whenever it may be. If you're working remotely, say yes to taking a breath, going out for a walk. Don't stay too long if you need to come back and work, but take that 15 minutes, set an alarm, take the break, and then come back refreshed, especially if you work with numbers. I've worked with numbers as part of my job, and sometimes after an hour, they start kind of blending together. And if you're doing things that things have to balance or anything like that, you need to take that time. Come back. Try it even the next day if you need to work with that sort of thing. But take a few minutes. Take an hour. Or take a whole day if you need it, so you can de-stress and play. Get away from the phone, away from social media, for heaven's sakes, from news, whatever it takes. Take a break from whatever you need. So say yes to taking a break. I have a friend who just started deciding to get away from social media, so she's just allowing herself a small amount of time a day, and I don't know if she's setting an alarm, but that is a good idea. If you get stuck and all of a sudden you're there constantly and it's like, nope, stop, that's enough. Because social media can really depress you. The news can really depress you. So don't listen to it for hours and hours if you don't have to. You don't need to do that. So say yes to taking a break. Number 6 is say yes to help. Whether you pay for help, like a gardener or a housekeeper, or getting a virtual assistant if you have a business, whatever you're doing, say yes when you need or want help. Say yes to hiring a masseuse. Say yes. Or you can ask your kids, your spouse, or maybe even a friend for help if you feel the need to have someone else do it so you don't feel like you have to do it all. And don't feel like you're any less. You aren't any less if you can't do everything. You don't have to do everything. But you need to feel that you can deserve to have everything. Deserve that you can have the help. Deserve that you can say yes to yourself that way. Number 7 is saying yes to romance. Put yourself in the mood sometimes. Don't just ignore it. Do things that make you feel sexier or more attractive. Take that time, even if you're living alone. Have some chocolate. Put on some music that makes you feel sexy. Just practice. Get in the feeling for when you're with someone, or just to make you feel better about yourself. And if you think you're with someone and you think about what would they like for romance, what would make me feel good to give to them? So maybe you have that candlelight dinner. What would that other person think of as romantic? Maybe their idea of romantic is going to a ball game. That's fine. As long as you're not saying no to yourself and you're saying yes to romance where you feel better too because they feel good afterwards, then that's something that you can say yes to as well without feeling like you're saying no to yourself. Number 9 is say yes to your dreams. Don't put off your dreams. If you know what they are, take steps to make them come true. Even if they're baby steps. They don't have to be giant quantum leap steps if you're not ready for those. They can be smaller baby steps to saying, oh my goodness, I see a small amount of them coming true. And it also gives you time, if you take a week or a month to do this, that you can evaluate how important these are to you, especially if you put them off for a long time. Because if you have dreams you put off for a long time, then you may have shifted what your dream is. Just because you wanted to marry the prince in the castle or the princess and be royal when you were a kid, or be a superhero when you were a kid, it doesn't mean that's what you want to do now. Maybe you do in your heart of hearts, but you can shift how that works. Now, I had no idea about being a life coach when I was younger. That wasn't part of my dreams. Living my life purpose was, but not having a show of living your limitless life or working with people and releasing the blocks to their dreams. Those were not things that I did or knew that I wanted to do. So take that time. Number 8, say yes to your dreams. Number 9 on the 10 that I was giving you is to say yes to being you. Don't do things because you think you have to. Listen to yourself. Be true to who you are. And for heaven's sakes, don't pretend to be someone you aren't when you're dating or looking for a job, because how long you're going to be able to hold that is questionable. If you act one way because you're not being true to yourself or saying yes to you when you're dating, and they end up asking you to marry them and you end up marrying them, and you can't hold that forever if that's not really you. And if they don't get used to you as the real you, divorce will happen. Things will happen. So be true to yourself from the beginning. Also, the same was with a job. You can't hold that job very long if you don't know what you're doing, unless you find a way to make that work. So be true to yourself when you're saying yes, even if it means having to say no, because it doesn't feel right to you. And of course, number 10 is say yes to no, because sometimes you just have to say no. If you feel like you say yes to people when you want to say no, give yourself permission to change. Change your ways for this one too. Don't let yourself be taken for granted or be the go-to person if you don't want to be. Don't volunteer or say yes when you mean no. Sometimes we do it just because we want to help out. Nobody's saying yes to picking up the kids at carpool or taking them to a sporting event. And so maybe it's just dropping them off. You're not going to go see the sporting event or see what's happening. It's a rehearsal for whatever's happening, or I'm saying rehearsal for a show. for a theater show, but practice for a game or whatever's happening, and you don't want to say yes because you'd rather stay home and read a book. But sometimes you might want to say yes. Well, all right, it won't kill me. But don't do it all the time. Don't always say yes because you think people won't love you or they won't be there for you if you say no. So those 10 things are options for you that I've given you, and you can pick anything else in your life. Say yes to your home. Say yes to compliments. Say yes to dating. Say yes to your body. Say yes to taking a break when you need it. Say yes to getting help when you need it. Say yes to romance. Say yes to your dreams. Say yes to being you, and say yes to saying no. And I do, again, want to say I highly recommend Shonda Rhimes' book, Year of Yes. Go out and get it. If you love Liza Minnelli, get Liza with a Z. I'm sure it's out in CD now. It has wonderful songs in it, especially Say Yes. And remember that sometimes you need to say yes, even you don't know the outcome to it. Because sometimes saying yes is about taking a chance and deciding if the risk is worth it or not. If you have to take that time and make a decision, it's okay to say yes or no. It's just a lesson you're moving forward with. It doesn't mean that no would be wrong or yes would be wrong. But yes can get you out of your rut if you're in one. Yes can get you out of staying stuck if you feel that way. It will give you new opportunities, new things that you can do, even if you have to feel the fear and do it anyway. And that's one of the things that courage is about. Saying yes, feeling the fear, and doing it anyway. If in your heart of hearts you feel that yes is the right answer for you, yes to the opportunity to do something, yes for the opportunity to get to know someone better, for either dating or maybe even having lunch with someone you don't like that much and you're going, I don't really know them very well. Maybe they're not the way I think they are. Maybe I need to say yes, even though part of me is going, no, I don't like them. But how do you know? You don't know their circumstances if you work with them. Maybe it's time to go out. Hold out of the olive branch and see if that's somebody that you actually could like if you looked beneath the surface. That's saying yes to other people when you feel like it's a possibility. You might get to know them at lunch and go, nope, I was right. I'm no longer going to say yes to them. And that's great. You learned something. You've grown because you haven't said no before you took that extra step. Because sometimes, yes, you just need to practice it because it will change your habits. If you practice something over and over again, of course, you will change your habit. You will say, okay, this yes feels right, but I'm not too sure. And fear of the unknown is normal. It's a human trait. Just because you have this fear doesn't mean you can't allow yourself, if it feels right, and to be authentic for yourself. This yes, this opportunity, this person can be a shift and a powerful shift for your world and your reality. Because yes is a very powerful word. No is as well. Both of them can change your life. So if you said no to everything for a really long time, pick just one part of your life to say yes to and see what happens. You may have a lot of opportunities coming your way because you've decided to say yes. You can pick and choose, or as Shonda Rhimes did, she said yes to everything, even when she was scared silly, because she made that decision for herself and she did it. You may want to start with something that's not quite as scary as what hers was, because that is a big step to take. And sometimes the risk is so big that is not something you're willing to do. And if you say yes and something bad happens, you might all of a sudden close everything down and then no longer say yes at all. If you're like that, then say yes to easier things for you. Say yes to appreciating yourself more. Say yes to maybe moving your house around because that doesn't hurt as much, right? Say yes as much as you can, as often as you can, as comfortable as you can with it. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you love the show, make sure you rate, review, and share this podcast and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Connect with me on Facebook or by email with questions and comments, ideas for future episodes, or if you would like to be a guest, give me a shout out and I'll send you an application. Until next week, remember, you are already enough to have that joyful, limitless life that you desire.
Thank you for listening to Connect to Joy. If you love the show, make sure you rate, review, and share this podcast. And subscribe so you never miss an episode. Contact the host, Carol DeChaine, with questions and comments, ideas for future episodes, or if you would like to become a guest. And remember, transformation is a journey and not an end destination. So be kind to yourself, because you are already enough to have the joyful, limitless life that you desire.